Welcome, guys, to the SBN Network podcast. I'm your host, Steff, and with me is...
I'm Scott.
Yes.
And I'm Scott. We know how to do intros now.
This is a podcast where we take some deep dives into some wonderful artists and kind of look at their account in a different way, which is always a little bit positive, a little awesome, and you guys can enjoy their accounts with us.
And now that we've gotten more professional, I try not to say any dumb stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I try to at least always end on a good note. Just gotta take a sip. Ceremonial.
And we begin.
I can just call you Staci, right? That's
yes.
Perfectly great. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I am super excited for this because, like I think a couple other people on this podcast, I reached out to you kind of blind, didn't really know you too well, and kind of like asked if you wanted to be on our crazy little journey on our kind of like our way of kind of involving everybody in the toy community. As we kind of chatted about a little bit earlier, doll photography, Lego photography, it all kind of gets branded separately. And then there's a big toy photography community. So, and the chances that bringing in people and letting them know that we all want to see your stuff and we all want to like talk to you and you guys are awesome, we decided to pick you to come on the show and hang out with us. And
I hope you're not the last doll photographer we have. That's I want to add that. Like, yeah, I think that's, you just said that, like bridging these, it almost feels not this dramatic, but sometimes it feels almost like cliquey. Like, it's like you've got like the Lego people and you've got like the Marvel Legends people and you've got like the Star Wars people. And it's like, I don't understand why, you know, somebody who takes photos of stormtroopers can't enjoy like some of the stuff that this community does, or like, you know, the dolls with like the big eyes and stuff like that. Like, I don't understand. Like, I think it's so cool to get people who do different things. So
yeah, really... I think that's what makes the community so beautiful, is that we all have different art and different takes. And with toys, it's infinite. Like, there's so many toys. So
absolutely, you can do anything.
So I wanted to welcome you because like I'm really excited that you said yes and they're coming on here and getting to chat with us a little bit. So I don't know. It's not morning over there for you guys. It's good afternoon. So
it's afternoon. Yep.
I'm on the West Coast, so it's like barely noon for me. So it works out.
So you're still kind of like good morning.
Yeah, I got my coffee still going, trying to get into this groove. But we're kind of just gonna jump into it and get to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
Like, where are you at? Like,
I'm located in Connecticut. Ooh. I'm stay-at-home mom. Yeah, so North Coast or no, yeah, so
Northeast.
Yep. I'm stay-at-home mom. I kind of stumbled into photography like on accident. You know, I just started showcasing my collection and discovered I loved photography just as much as I love collecting dolls. So pretty basic, married, love animals. I have 2 cats, you know.
Very cool.
Absolutely, living the life. Where does the I mean, you've got the handle of handles, the doll junkie. I mean, like, I can't believe you got that. How long have you been doing this? Like, I'm just like curious that you were able to get the doll junkie, because I feel like somebody would have had that before, but you got it. It's yours. That's amazing. So
I started in 2014 and I was just kind of like on a whim, you know, like being like, all right, what's Instagram about? And, you know, I was collecting dolls. I just started collecting dolls and I was looking for kind of a place to find my community, because you guys, I'm sure know, like, you're an adult and you collect toys. So that's kind of weird to most people, you know, so I was kind of looking for my tribe. So I found Instagram and the doll junkie. I was like, well, what do I want to name myself? And I'm like, well, I really like dolls and I like all dolls, you know, like I'm not stuck with Mattel or Integrity or MGA. Like I'm non-discriminating. So I was like, all right, the doll junkie. So yes, 2014.
Yeah.
So crazy. That's awesome that you got it. Because that's whenever I see a name like this, I'm usually pretty confident the person has been doing this for a while, because now at this point, like, all the handles have been taken. So it's like something like that is just way too clean and awesome to not have been around for a bit. So that's super cool. Have you always been, like, since you were young, or is this something you found later in life? Like, were you into dolls as a child and then you also did it like in your teenage years and adult years, or was it like later on?
So I've loved dolls my whole entire life. When I was
Mm-hmm.
12, my mom told me I was too old and I had to put away my dolls. So I did, And then in college, I actually started buying some collector's Barbies. And then in
Mm-hmm.
2013, Monster High released. And I love monsters. I love high fashion. So I was like, oh my God, what are these? And I was 30 at that time.
Yeah.
So I bought my first doll at 30 and it just kind of exploded into something that I'm very passionate about. And, I told my mom, I was like, I'm really mad that you made me put my dolls away because, so many doors and opportunities have opened up since I started following my passion.
Mm-hmm. And having fun with it. So
Exactly.
it's funny. So you talk about being around Barbies forever. So this is a story Steff does not even know yet. So I'm gonna open up to the world right now. I don't think my sister listens to this, but if she does, she's gonna laugh out of control when she hears me tell this story, because when I was younger, I played with Star Wars figures. Blah blah blah. Everybody knows I play with Star Wars figures still. Um, but my sister really loved Barbie dolls, and she really had no interest in playing with Star Wars figures with me. So in my own head, I concocted this way of making Star Wars and Barbie dolls play together all the time, like all the time. And we would play like it. That was an actual ongoing game with my sister and I, where we were using the two simultaneously. Scales did not match because at that time I was only the 3.75 figures, and I don't know what these storylines were. I don't know what our imaginations were doing. But that was the big thing. That was, I mean, and I'm forever. This is what we would do. We would combine the Star Wars and the Barbies together always. And so I think maybe there's where a little bit of my connection to the Barbie world comes from, because there were Barbies around, and that's what she wanted to play with, and I wanted to play with her. Like, I liked
Yep.
playing with my sister, but she really didn't want to play with, the Star Wars guys. So we just merged them, and it became a super weird game that I don't think made any sense.
That's awesome.
Siblings will do that for you. I had a little brother, and he played a lot of Barbies. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But we also played a lot of Ninja Turtle games and like all the other stuff that happens there, because toys are so vast. There's so many of them. There's so many cool things that happen. But with a lot of action figures, especially being a female, you get like, you play Ninja Turtles, you get to be April. Like, there's no real like diversity in who you're gonna play as, or in imagination when it comes to female characters. Because even in the X-Men, they didn't have very many female characters out as actual figures when I was a kid. Nowadays, you can pick them up like by the thousands, but it's just like, when you think about back on that, Barbie was really like the first time that you were able to like have something in your hand as a little girl and know what you're gonna do and what you're gonna. I mean, I've cut mine's hair. I was awful to my Barbie dolls back in the day.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a little slideshow that goes with this. So I pulled a
Okay.
bunch of photos from your. You probably saw me liking a bunch of stuff this morning. And so from the history, and so your first, it's actually your second photo on your stream, but it was too perfect not to pick. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that was that was the beginning right there.
And is that Monster High? Is that what you were?
So, that is Monster High. Yep. And that was like what I was exclusively photographing for the longest time. And then when they ended, I was like, kind of, what do I do? Where do I go from here? But and then I started photographing Barbie and some higher end collectible dolls. And it's crazy to see where I started. Like, I took that on a cell phone with no light, like with a glitter cardboard backdrop. So I haven't looked at that photo in a long time.
But it's so interesting because and I really do love pointing this out at the beginning. It's fascinating to see that a lot of your same ideas and techniques, you obviously had a clear vision of what you wanted to do. Like, yes, you've experimented with other things, you've done other things, and yes, this was just with the cell phone, but that you see your voice there. I mean, if you take other photos, some of the photos that I posted with your photo, like, it's that idea of the portrait of a character with, a 2D backdrop, almost like you took a human being into a fashion studio and photographed them. And that's something that you've continued to do. This looks like, this is a very cool, exciting image. And it's, even though there wasn't any, professional lighting and stuff like that, like, it's lit very evenly and nicely. It's, you know, it really captures the character. So, and it also focuses on, like, you know, what she's wearing and her hair, and you know what I mean? Like, you're getting everything. So it's super cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of my inspiration came from, I grew up in the 80s. So when Barbie first came out, like a lot of her marketing was a doll with this like backdrop that could be human scale. So that's kind of always where I find, you know, I follow a lot of couture pages and a lot of fashion models. And I'm always trying to mimic poses that are very
Yeah.
lifelike and human. I want you to see a doll, but I want you to also get a lot of human emotion from that doll and her movement.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely, like, you can see the influence of fashion and editorial, and it's all there throughout your whole feed as you scroll through. And I'm sure we'll get to more photos like this, but you're posing, like, you think about that. You clearly have observed, you know, model behavior and model posing and whatnot. You see little things you do with their wrists and their, you know, their chin and the way their head tilts and stuff. It's intentional, and it's so cool. I love that you put that much thought into it. I like too that a lot of your photos, and it's gonna sound weird, I like that they don't pose in a natural way, which I almost feel like is more complicated, because you're taking something that's not alive and trying to create a living thing from it. But when models are actually presenting themselves and performing, they're almost taking a little bit of like the life out of it. Like, they're not trying to be natural. So you're going, like, you're taking more steps than some of us do, where we're trying to just make like a figure look like, oh, it's real, it feels real, it feels real. You're trying to make it look real, as if something real is trying to look unreal. And it's like, there's layers to that. I think if anybody actually understands what I just said, you are amazing, because I don't really know if I get it. But like, there's this really interesting process that you take that I think is more challenging than people realize, which I just think is really cool. I think it's really fascinating.
Thank you so much. Like, that means a lot, because I do like my posing. Like, I go through, it's about a half hour before I get an image that looks organic enough for me to take a picture. Because, you know, it's hard to balance these figures, and there's fishing line and, you know, like sticks in the back, and then they're falling and you're swearing. So
Absolutely. We yell at our toys all the time. We're so mean to them.
I don't think I've ever cursed as loudly as I did on this last shoot with this Barbie doll. I even sent Scott a text message.
Yeah.
And I was like, Barbie photography is hard. And
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't.
Yeah.
Because their feet are not made for standing on unless you have shoes on them and everything. I forgot how it is to own something that would be needing a little more finesse than my usual little Nendroid and their heavy heads. So
yeah, it's challenging. It's got its challenges for sure.
It is very challenging. I do like your pics of patterns and everything. We're going to go through that in a couple of these. You have some delightful taste in fabrics. So
thank you.
Agreed.
If I can get this to move.
This is exactly it. Like, there's this, like, this looks like something you would see. This is like a Vogue style cover shoot. Like, it's over the top. It's super vibrant. I mean, but again, you're so good at making her look like she's a real person posing. And it's that, I think, is just so fascinating. I can't reiterate this enough, how cool that is. Like, her right hand. I mean, look at her right hand. Like, I know it's a little micro detail, but, like, you know, it would have been very easy for you to just cheat and just stick her hand behind the dress, and probably, to be honest, most people wouldn't notice. But you can see her right hand is just like bent back, as if she's, like, you know, just like leaning on it, and the way that her right shoulder comes forward, I'm super fascinated by how your brain works, because I think that's really cool. That's really cool.
Thank you so much. Like, this photo is one of my favorites to date, probably. And It was a bear to, do. And that hand gave me the hardest time. Like I
I'm
could
sure
not
it
get
did.
it to look, right. Like I went through a lot to get her to, so thank you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the maintenance on the hair for these dolls.
You doll people, you guys have patience that I thought I was patient with like posing figures and stuff like that. And then I tried figures with actual fabric and then forget hair. Like that stresses me out. Like her hair looks absolutely fantastic. The horses even it's just, I don't know. Everything just looks nice. And if I did this, it would just be like an explosion on the side. It would be terrible.
Well, I'm lucky because that doll in particular, her hairstyle is like hairsprayed, shellacked, so it's not going anywhere.
That's
I
good.
did work on the horse's hair a little bit, to tidy him up a little bit. But yeah, hair is the bane. Like, I have my spray bottle and I have my like rat tail comb, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
always like in there, like, trying to get those flyaways down because that's the one thing that does not fly in my photography. Like flyaways drive me
Mm-hmm.
crazy. If I have to Photoshop them out, I don't like doing that. So I try to get it pristine in
Yeah.
front of my camera. Yeah, but
Yeah.
hair is not fun.
It's funny you say that too, because a lot of like the 1/6 scales are now starting to have real hair, like all the Lord of the Rings characters from Asmus Toys and everything. And that's one thing I hear the most on most podcasts and stuff. Are like all these poor guys, like I don't know how to brush it, I don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
do with it, I don't know how to do it. And then one guy I know, TJ, he was on here, Capes and Rifles. His wife is a cosmetologist, so she was actually giving him products to use and stuff.
To
And the
maintain it.
amount of time it takes, and because this is for one shot, I'm sure you use this horse, I've seen it like a couple other times.
Mhm,
You have to re-groom them, like get them ready and like
mhm.
have a process, and they're falling over, so it's just like the amount of effort and work for this beautiful shot, people don't
Thank
know
you.
the half of it.
Thank you.
I don't even clean the dirt off of like my stormtroopers' feet. Like I just leave the mud on there. Like I had picked one up the other day because I was doing something weird with it, and I realized there was still like clay, like stuff. I was like, oh wow, yeah, you need to be cleaned. You're dirty.
Yeah, but now he
So
just has more stories to tell, right? With his dirty
exactly,
feet. So.
exactly. He's had a life of
Mhm.
wild recklessness.
Yeah. Do you have a space set up somewhere for all this,
I
or do you kind of?
do. Yep. I'm actually in my studio slash doll room, and it's tiny. It's a tiny studio. So I don't have a tripod or anything because I don't have the room for it in here. But
Mhm.
this is like my sanctuary, when I need time away from the child or the husband.
Mm-hmm.
I come in here and just play with my dolls, take photos.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
What do you
Yeah.
shoot with? Just since we're talking about the studio and stuff, what do you shoot with now?
I shoot with a Canon,
Mm-hmm.
Canon EOS, and I love it. Like it was my first DSL. I got it in 2018. So, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, oh my God, why did it take me so long to get an actual camera? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and now I can't, and I shoot with a 50 millimeter lens most of the
Yeah.
time. That's
That's
my
what
chosen
I was
baby.
pretty sure you shot with a 50 most of the time. It feels,
Mhm.
but I think that's honestly how you really capture that authentic nature of these. Like everything's real. The perspective is super real. The
Mhm.
compression is super real. Like everything just feels like it's supposed to. Like
Yeah.
there is no zooming. There is no distortion of a wide angle. So it's very very even.
Yeah, it's
But
my baby. Like it was a game changer. I got it for Christmas last year and I was like, I'm never going back. Like this is
mm-hmm,
my lens and I love her.
mm-hmm,
So
Oh.
absolutely. Hmm. This is cool. This
yeah,
is real cool.
Danny.
Mm-hmm.
So
This
cool.
this figure was a nightmare to shoot because her eyes have had like this dead look. Like the eye paint job was just not flattering for forward fronting. So
Mm-hmm.
I struggled
Interesting.
with her like horribly trying to get some sort of realness out of her features because she just kind of looks like there's a dragon in my face.
Yeah.
So, but I have had her repainted since, so she looks a lot better.
Ooh.
Gotcha. It's funny you say that about the eyes because that's something I want to point out. And we may get to more photos that really make this stand out. You're really good at utilizing the direction that the eyes are pointing in. Um, you like, I've noticed that because some of the dolls you have, like their eyes are very directional. They're not, nobody's like, I don't think really any of them that I noticed were just like straight on, like here are the eyes. Like most of them are looking in a particular direction, and you're really good at like making the head and the hands and objects and things like that look like it's making sense, like that she chose to move her eyes in that direction, not that they're just stuck in that position. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a big difference there. I feel like everything, when you look at the face of the dolls, when you photograph them and they're looking in a direction, it looks like you were somehow able to magically choose that they looked in that direction, even though you're just utilizing the face paint. Like that's what you have to work with. If they're looking down to the left, you make it work. If they're looking up and to the right, you make that work. So I think that's really cool that you do focus on the how to use the eyes properly and whatnot.
Thank you. That was, again, a lot of practice. Like it did not come easily to me, like at all. Like I was like, this is tricky. And every once in a while, like I still get a doll where I'm like, oh boy, we're gonna have to work on our communication here.
Yeah.
But
how do we make this happen?
yeah.
How many dolls do you think you own right now? Do you know?
A shit ton.
I think yeah. That's how you're asking me how many Nintendos I have. Actually thinking about it, but I don't really know.
It's the actual number. The actual number is shit ton.
Probably close to 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to start purging. I've got a bunch in storage. So yeah, but yeah, I am
That's
the doll.
The problem is when they start getting to that point. It's funny because it's having a lot is not a bad thing. It's fun, but once they start getting like kind of almost like lost in the midst of things because you're getting new things to replace those, it kind of becomes like one of those things where you're like, like somebody else could benefit from you. Let's move you on to a new space, so you're not just sitting in a box serving no purpose. Like that's depressing. So I get what you mean. Yeah, once they get to that point, kind of let them move on. Let them find a new home.
And I feel like they have to work for me. Like, if a doll and I aren't connecting, like she gets voted off the island, she moves on to a new home where she will work. Yep. But that's rare to happen. Usually I kind of like fall in love with everything I see. I'm like, you're so pretty, your outfit's so pretty, your hair's so pretty, so.
But sometimes you just get that one that you just cannot get a photo of. Like it's, I mean, it happens with figures too. Like I've definitely had that happen where I just like, oh, this looks so good in the package. You take it out and you're just like, okay, this is nothing. Like I have no idea what I'm going to do with this thing.
Yeah, so, I have no idea what to do with you. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I get that. Totally get that.
I did notice that you have some favorites in your feed. So I have pulled some of them that you have a couple of like multiple pictures of. Not this one. This was just an older photo and I saw it and it was amazing.
That is too cool. What a cool, like, I almost like, I feel like, when did these come out?
So this is roughly? Actually, Monster High originally started in 2010. And this is actually a repainted Monster High doll that was done by my friend Robin, because I'm obsessed with anything fantasy and fairies and mermaids. So she made her for me and I still have her. I love her. Yeah, but I'm afraid to play with her too much, like because she's painted. So she doesn't get photographed a lot because I don't want to ruin any of her painting. Like she's very intricate and I don't want the paint to chip.
How often do you get repaints done? Is it something you do often, or is it just something for like your really like particular special ones you get out there and you get them done?
It's usually like if something needs to be repainted, like for instance, Danny's eyes, like I couldn't deal with them, so she had to get done. But usually I will look at artists' feed, and if they're selling something that I've fallen in love with or I like need, I will purchase. Normally though, I stick to reroutes. Like if hair's not working for me, I'll send out a doll to get rerouted. But usually I love my dolls with their original face paints. So
as is, yeah, I got you.
Cool. It's funny because you say that because like I've been needing like props and stuff, and I found like a key group of people that I go to if I need something done. I'll go to the certain person that do that. I've recently Kiwi Wiki Toys does like woodworking, so she's working on a bunch of stuff for me because I've been needing wooden props for a bunch of stuff that they don't have. Like I'm not that great at building them, so it's just interesting. You probably have a select few that you know that you can go to for stuff like Danny's eyes and get them fixed. And it's interesting that everybody needs their toys. If they need something special,
Mm-hmm.
have those key people in the community. And I
Yeah.
noticed in a lot of your posts, you shout out for outfits and stuff like that, and a lot of those
Yes.
names. I went down a rabbit hole of like looking at all these people that you're going through, and it's really neat to see even more accounts of all these cool customizers and crafting people for
And
even
they're
just like,
so talented. Like,
yeah.
like the stuff they make is like ungodly amazing. And I'm just like, I could just take pretty photos, but you guys are like creating the magic here, So I feel like I need to shout them out because, again, like making tiny, outfits and tiny props, like that's a lot of work in itself as
Mm-hmm.
well. So,
I do love that about the doll community specifically. I feel like almost, and I mean, I'll say it above like other clicks in the toy photography community. I feel like you guys really shout each other out a lot. Like you're really good at like, this person made me this dress, and then this was made by this, and this was made by this. This table was by this. Like, I feel like there's a ton of that in the doll community from everybody that I've looked at. It's like you'll look at the tags and they're tagged on the photo, and then it's like underneath, like this was made by this person, this was made by this person. I think that's really really cool. How much you guys interact and whatnot. I think that's really important. Yeah, maybe I got to figure out a way to start doing that more in
yeah,
the
they're a
6 inch
sweet
community.
bunch. Like the doll community, like is really like a tight family. Like we all know
Mm-hmm.
each other, and like we respect each other's art. And a lot of times, like I feel like when you have knowledge, most people don't want to share that knowledge. But in the doll community, it's like we want to share.
Yeah,
We want you to take like amazing photos. We want you to get the dress you want.
yeah,
So
yeah. This is where I got this. Go ahead, go get one. I get what you mean. That's really cool.
yeah.
It's really really neat.
So classic. I mean, this is such classic
Thank
like
you.
old Hollywood. Like it's so neat how you do that. Is this just a flat backdrop that you got, or did you make like a scene in
I
the
made
background?
this. Yeah, I
Okay.
made this scene. And this was my first time kind of exploring with painting in Lightroom.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the shadowing and stuff is done by my hand.
Okay.
And this photo like stands up. I took this a while ago and I will constantly repost it because again, it's one of my favorites. Like, I love that. I love fantasy and fashion and I love blending that together a lot. And
Yep.
I love this white rabbit. Like, I think, I would follow her wherever she went.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that again, that arm pose, like, what you're able to do with a doll with just a, select few points of articulation is really impressive. It's well thought out.
Thank you
And
so much.
it's, you think like, typically if you're doing actual fashion photography, yeah, you're encouraging the model to behave in a certain way, but really the model is doing a lot of the posing and you're really focused on the capturing the image. But when you're doing this, you're trying to do both. You're like modeling and photographing at the same time because she's not going to do what you ask her to. Like that would be crazy. And so it's like you have to do it. You have to make that happen. And it's so cool that you're able to do it. I love the way the dress even looks. Like everything about this is so cool. The dress just fell
Thank
so
you.
nicely.
It just
Thank you.
looks like
Yeah.
it's in motion too, because you have
Yeah.
like a tilt happening almost where the dress is moving and it looks like she's moving towards the
Yeah.
door, and the door is kind of like angled in a perfect way.
Yeah.
Your framing when you do the full body thing is absolutely gorgeous. Because
Thank
like I
Mm-hmm.
said,
you.
being able to, and like I don't know if she's completely centered, and that might just be my eye seeing that she's not, which I like better. Is
Yeah.
Me
that she
too.
is like she's floating towards something, which is it's just absolutely awesome because the scale of Barbies is just so much different compared to like the Nendroid. We're just gonna like go with my regular thing. And so, what size lens do you use?
My 50 millimeter, and I
That's
don't
what
know
I
which. Yeah,
thought.
yeah, it's always my 50 millimeter. Yeah, for that
Yeah,
one definitely.
Yeah.
yeah, you're magical because a 50 millimeter with the size of it and this like it's just ridiculously hard. Let's put it that way. I spent many F-bomb, non-mom related words out and trying to take a photo in this game.
Yeah. I didn't, like I said, I totally went away from the full length. Like I started out thinking that direction, and then I was like, nope. I went back to your feed, and I just went back to like the closer portraits, and I was like, all right, this is the direction I'm going to be thinking, because this is not going to happen. And I mean, I wasn't even trying to pose like regular dolls with like the little pointy feet. Like I was posing, they have like big bulky Star Wars feet, so I don't even have an excuse. I'm just lazy apparently. So.
No. It's just a wonder to like, from my perspective, like I'm gonna say it over and over again, like I don't think people realize until they hold the toy in your hand, take a normal lens that you would utilize for something that is this small, blow it this way, and still have it feel like it's like all the way around 360, like you're in that moment with this character. It's really cool.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's all been a lot of learning, like I feel like I'm constantly trying to learn, trying to better myself. And I think I'm improving, but I always feel like there's more room to improve. But yeah.
If you ever get to the point where there's no room to improve, then what's the point of doing it?
Then why am I doing it? Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I think we should always be like trying to do something better, because yeah, seriously, if I ever get to the point where I actually, firstly, I'm a psychopath if I actually think I'm like the best toy photographer ever. But if I ever get to that point, then why am I going to bother doing it anymore? It doesn't matter at that point. So you may as well just keep trying to get better and get better and get better and get better. Yeah, this is freaking great.
Thank you.
This is fun. This is that fun, like kind of street fashion. Like that's too cool. Like,
yeah. So when I saw this suit, I like lost my, mind. I was like, oh my God, because I'm big into color. I love matching colors. I like doing monochromatic work a lot. So I already had this backdrop, and I actually bought this suit because I was like, wow, with this backdrop, it's going to make the coolest picture ever. So a lot of the times you'll see this suit and this backdrop with a different doll, just because I can't get it out of my head. Like it's one of my favorites.
It's funny too, the way you shot this and the way you framed it. It reminds me of this is, I don't even know why I'm going to get weird and specific like this, but Stephen Shore did some fashion shoots for, I want to say it was like Elle magazine, like a decade ago. And it was very just stark and straightforward with centered model and the outfit and the background. And that was it. It was just really like, that was it, each page. And it was multiple pages of this. Different outfits, different backgrounds, but that's all it was. Model, centered, outfit, background. Model, centered, outfit, background. And that's just what this like reminded me of when I first saw it. I was like, it's so just like right there. There she is. This is the thing. Look at the thing. Okay, yep. Next page. Here's the thing. Look at the thing. Next page. Like it feels like I'm flipping through a magazine. It's so cool. So
yeah, and I like to do that sometimes. Like I don't necessarily tell you a story with my photos. I kind of want you to find out your own story. Like, all right, where is she going? She's in this alley and she's dressed like this. Where is she going? In your mind, where, do you think this is going to end up? So, and I have fun with that. Like sometimes, it's a little lazy. Like I'm just like, bam, there you go. Just look at this pretty doll.
But that is, to be honest, there's a skill to that minimalism. I mean, if you tried to make this, look at how complicated the background is and how complicated the outfit is. Like if you tried to make her posing and all that too complicated, there'd be way too many issues going on. Like by simplifying and just making her the center here, she stands out against that background. Even though the colors blend, you can see her. Again, if you started like moving her arms in weird directions and like her legs and tried to do more of the really high fashion crazy stuff, it would have, I don't know if it would have had the same impact. So I think it's just phenomenal. I love that.
Thank you.
And her hair is amazing. I love yellow.
Yeah, she's one of my favorites. Like she's, you see her a lot on my feed too, because she's fun.
Did she come with that hair? Or is that one of the reroutes there?
She came with that hair. Yep. I went to a
Oh.
convention, a doll convention, and she was part of the set. And I was like, I'm obsessed with fantasy hair. So anytime a doll comes out with fantasy hair, I have to get it. No questions asked. So
perfect.
Thank you.
Talk about all the romance.
Absolutely. This is great. And also, just out of curiosity, the mermaid thing.
Yes.
I notice the intrigue with mermaids on your page.
Yes.
But it wasn't always on your page. I feel like it started like because I went pretty deep back too. And then all of a sudden they just started appearing. What sparked that? Do you like have a point that happened?
So one of my friends on the Instagram community every year runs Mermaid. And I'm big into fantasy, and she started doing these prompts. So every month I would do these prompts, and I decided, wow, prompts are really helpful for me because they take all that pressure of what I'm going to photograph kind of out of the way. So yeah, and I decided, I really love mermaids. Like my goal eventually is to have a fashion doll photography fantasy mermaid book out in the world somewhere of just mermaids and fairies and yeah, so that's the dream. But I do love mermaids, and over the past year it's kind of grown to every mermaid at May. That's all you're going to see on my page is mermaids.
That is so interesting. Yeah, no, it's fascinating because like I said, it all of a sudden appeared and I was like, what did this? What sparked the mermaid thing? But that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, so that's my friend Lily. She created this monster.
That's awesome. Does she focus on mermaids, or is it just mermaid that she's into like that?
Just mermaid, yeah. And I've kind of I've started Siren Sunday.
That's
so on
fun.
Sundays on my page, you'll see like mermaid related shoots and stuff.
That's really fun. The how many? This is out of curiosity, just because I'm learning how the doll community works and whatnot. Your ratio of male dolls to female dolls, like how many like male dolls do you even have? Like, are there a good variety of them, or is it just like here's a handful and you just kind of work with what you can find?
Yeah, they're just like kind of like arm candy.
Yeah.
So I've only got a few. I've got I think 7.
Okay.
And the girls kind of share them when they need a prop or a story being
Absolutely.
told.
Absolutely.
Because I just find that they're lacking. I feel like male dolls are still kind of lacking. They don't have, like this guy in particular doesn't have a lot of head articulation. I need my heads to go up and down. So if they just go side to side, I don't really
what's the benefit?
like that. Yeah.
I get that.
It's so odd that they wouldn't move the same way as
and those 2 dolls are made with by the same company. So it's a little frustrating that he gets left behind in the articulation department a little bit.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Strange.
So interesting.
Do you have a bunch of the custom-made mermaid tails too? Because I've seen so many.
I have a bunch that I bought from FinFun Mermaid. They actually sell doll tails. I am currently looking to try to get some silicone tails made for dolls. Somebody in the UK is offering to make them for me, so I might send out a form to do that because I really like a lot of realism in my photos. I want you to see a doll, but I want her tail to be as realistic as possible, So I'm considering that for next Mermaid to get some silicone tails made. Yeah.
Where do you find your backdrops?
So I get all my backdrops from this website called the Tiny Frock Shop. She's pretty much the only one that sells them, and I know that they're going to work. On eBay, I'll buy some 1/6 scale ones, and they'll come, and they're obviously not 1/6 scale. So, but she's pretty good. The only thing is I probably own all of her backdrops now. I probably have close to 100.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because when I went to I wanted to at least use a 2D backdrop for one of the photos, but I don't have any. And so I went to my typical, like, just find a book, open it up, and find a page. But the problem is, with 6-inch figures, it's fine. You double the size, and it's impossible. Like, there's like, I would have to have a book that was just like the size of a trash can, like to make it actually work the way you want it to. So I was curious because you have so many and you have such a good variety. And like when I look through, your options are vast. Like you have ones that have roads in them. You have, it looks like different countries, different landscapes. And it's just, yeah, you have a lot of options, which I think is amazing, especially when you're dealing with this size toy. Like it's, you have to have a lot of different options because.
And that was born out of necessity because
Yeah.
my studio doesn't allow for me to make dioramas. Like when I set up my mermaid diorama, I took over my rec room downstairs. Like my husband's like work office was my photo studio for a month.
Yeah.
Because the diorama was huge.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, fabric backdrops are the way to go for me.
Yeah.
There you go.
It makes sense.
I think we go to our challenge now. So you ran with it with the spring. Thank you for finding this one because it's perfect.
Thank you.
So I gotta ask. We were talking about backdrops. Is that a backdrop? What is that?
It is.
That's just a 2D backdrop?
Yep.
You make it look so real.
Thank you. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but yeah, this backdrop is exceptional. Like, it's really fun. And she's my favorite doll ever, so she was a natural choice to be part of this style challenge.
Where did that dress come with or is that a dress that you got like from a maker? Like, where does that come from?
So it's a stock Integrity dress. It's from an Integrity doll line from 2017, I believe. And I bought just the dress. I don't have the doll that it belongs to.
Oh.
But I love that color. So when I found it for sale, I was like, I need this dress.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, this is the interesting thing about dolls that fascinates me compared to the stuff I'm used to shooting is your options for changing their outfits. I think that's probably one of the most, like, my biggest level of envy for that community is like you guys can just like change their outfits and you can like change so many things about them. You know, my things are molded with their clothes on. It's just like, that's it. They are what they are.
I know. I feel bad for you guys sometimes because I'm like, it must be hard to tell a story, you know, over and over again. You've got that same figure, and how many stories can you tell?
Same outfit,
when he's
same
not allowed
hair.
to change, right? Yeah.
This is a great image. It is really cool. I love how you paralleled like the flowers in the dress with the flowers with the backdrop. Like that's why I was like, I couldn't imagine that this was just a backdrop. Like that's too cool. That's really too cool.
Thank you.
And just like your color palette for a lot of these things, it's just so eye-catching, and there's a lot to say about how bold your choices are. And I know it's probably part of the high fashion thing and all that stuff, but it's really, really interesting when you scroll through, especially since I scrolled through quite a bit this morning, really looking at everything. They just kind of pop out. It's just like, it's really, really nice.
I'm a big fan of the color wheel. I've always been a fan of art and artists. So I'm constantly like, I have a color wheel and I will reference it and I will push boundaries. Like a lot of the times I'll get like, I never thought that, you know, pink and orange would look so well together. And it's like, yeah, it's unexpected, but if you know your colors.
What magazine, just out of curiosity, what magazines do you look at for influence, like for this kind of stuff? Like what do you like to go through that gets your brain ticking?
I follow a lot of high fashion photographers. You kind of nailed it on the head today when you were talking about me on your Instagram. Yeah, Vogue, runway shows. Like I take most of my inspiration not from the toy community, but from real life fashion models. And
you can tell
the Met Gala is like one of my favorite things to turn into every year. You know, so you'll see some of those inspired shoots later on this year from me.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I figured you probably looked at a lot of different fashion magazines and whatnot, but it really is so clear on your page. Like, again, just I now follow a fair amount of doll photographers, and yours very specifically seems to be geared towards that like editorial. Like I feel like even without you saying that, I would have guessed that that's sort of who you look to is the actual like the fashion photographers who are out there. Like I could see you watching, you know. Like I made the joke, but like I could see you actually like watching America's Next Top Model and like coming up with an idea from that and being like, you know, actually having like legitimate opinions about how they're doing things because you know, and it's interesting. It's really cool. You have a very different approach, and again, Steff was the one who kind of brought you to my attention, And I'm just so happy she did, because it was something I hadn't really seen. Like, I, again, been following doll photographers, but it was a different vibe. And this was like a whole, like, wow, this is so interesting. This is a different spin on doll photography that I hadn't really seen a lot of. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like because I love fashion, but I can't afford the $4,000 couture. So my dolls live that kind of life for me, that's
Absolutely.
right. So
have you thought at all, I'm throwing this out there, have you thought of making any clothes for them? Or is that just something that's a little too far over the top?
I have thought about it, but I mean, with a 5-year-old running around, it's kind of like I don't think it's in the cards for me anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I have lots of talented friends, so thankfully, whenever I see something that I need, I can always reach out to a few people, and
somebody will come up with it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yay.
Yep. First time I ever took him out of a box to take a picture of him. And the same thing with the other two. They were my original plan. I had told Steff, my original plan was I was going to look for either like I don't think they would have been by Mattel, but the Star Wars, like the Padme or the Leia. And I had seen some out and about, and I had really considered doing it. And then the month got really crazy. This last month has been absolutely insane. So I didn't get to find what I was looking for. So I was like, all right, I don't have a choice but to shoot 12-inch, and I want it to be similar, like articulation and stuff. So I dug through and I found like 12-inch Akbar, 12-inch TIE Fighter Pilot, 12-inch C-3PO. And I was like, all right, these are going to be my Barbie fill-ins. And it was so fun. It was so fun. I've never done it. I've never shot these guys. So it was a really fun opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love C-3PO here. I love he's living his floral fantasy, I feel like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I did pick him because if all of the droids or any character in Star Wars that really was going to be a fashion model, C-3PO should be.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, I could see him walking a runway.
Super diva. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. He thinks he's amazing.
Right. Mine's just going to be like, because I had to find a fantasy one.
Yeah,
you
did
fantasy.
That.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. You did the fantasy. You did fantasy and doll.
See, I like her.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I can imagine.
I will say that her arms did not move. They don't bend at the elbows. So it definitely was like C-3PO action going on for me
absolutely.
For this.
But you made it work. You made her what her limitations were. You used the limitations of the toy and you made it functional. She's got her arms spread out more. You just chose to take a different route with it. How in the world did you balance her? Like, that's what I was about to ask, and then you guys, I didn't want to like cut that off, but like, what did you do?
It's a stick.
They're just is it the stick over on the right that's holding her up?
No.
Is there one behind her, like up her dress or something?
It's just in her back, just right there. And like she fell over, I don't even know how many times. And then like I got her to, because I was trying to get her to like tiptoe basically and like have some fun, because Galadriel from Lord of the Rings is like this scary entity or whatever kind of going on. Like she's a fairy, but she's like, or an elven fairy, whatever, to my regards. But I was like, she can have fun. She can, before all the ring stuff happened, she's probably outliving her best elf life.
Fairy life, exactly.
Yeah.
That is
so
great.
I was just like trying to have her have some fun. But these sticks, I had them up like flat, and they kept falling down too. So it was really wet because it just rained. So nothing was like staying in place. And being outside sometimes can get quite aggravating when you're trying to use natural environment.
I also love that what we had talked about with like head position and stuff like that. Like you thought about the fact that she's looking downward. Like I think if she had been looking up, it would have looked weird, but she's looking down because she's tiptoeing on something. Like she's checking her balance, and her eyes are down towards the ground naturally, like with her paint. So you just kind of worked with what you had, again, with the posing, with the head position. Like I feel like you really you utilize the best things about the doll. And I think that's really honestly one of the big things about doll photography that I've witnessed and seen. It's just, trying to use them to their fullest potential with what you've got. So
Yeah, exactly. I love the movement in her skirt. I like how she's holding her skirt. I love the flowing of the fabric. I think that's beautiful. That in itself, I think, tells a story, is when you just, let the dress do a lot of the talking
Mm-hmm.
as well.
And I did notice because they have underskirts underneath, which I forgot about, and her legs do not move, so that thing is hiked all the way
Yeah.
up. Because I was just like, no, I almost
yeah.
just cut it off of her because I was like, this is not gonna work at all. And the thing of the matter is that lighting her, I would have to tell you, I move those lights around like so much because you get it one in the wrong bad spot, half of her face is lit, and then it's lit goofy because of the way that their eyes are like on the head sculpts. It's just like a completely different realm than anything else because Nindroids are pretty like even across the top. Like you can do straight on or even like at an angle, it'll still kind of reflect the same way. Whereas Barbie's, it's almost like a triangle point where you have to like it's so
You also have to
interesting.
worry about like hair shadow and stuff like that too, like you do with real people, like
Yes.
human
Yep.
beings. You don't have to really worry about that with 6-inch figures, but with a doll like that has hair, you have to worry about things like that on the face.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
so interesting.
I always have a ridiculous amount of lights. I think I have about 4 going at all times when I'm shooting, just because the shadows are insane, like you said, with the hair, and the face, like these pointed faces, like you need full coverage from both sides almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've even shot Hot Toys before, and I remember it not being this difficult. So I don't know if it's just the way that they flow for dolls and with the real hair and everything that's coming about. But even being outdoors was such a challenge because you're out in the sunshine. It should be like evenly flowing on the doll, but yeah, what you do is magical to make it so even and so like fashion shoot because this took me 2 hours to take one photo, and I never have taken this long with with a figure unless it's like there's like wires and like explosions happening. We actually have to like plan out. But I was like, she's just bouncing on a log, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I almost lots of
Well, I
effort.
give you credit for going outside and doing this because I'm afraid, like, I don't do a lot of outside shoots for that reason. Because it's like it's very hard to manipulate the light outside, and my husband's got reflectors for me, and I'm like, a little bit lower. Wait, can you, So I'm spoiled with a lot of studio shooting for that reason alone.
Staci, I have an interesting question for you, just because we haven't had a doll photographer on here. One of the big things we do talk about like figure photography and stuff is figure injuries. Have you injured a doll in your photo process? Have you had any catastrophes?
The worst injury I've had so far is most of my dolls have real eyelashes, like, so I've dented a few because they've fallen
Oh,
face forward,
and it bends better,
but
yeah.
yeah, but luckily no paint chipping or no like loose, broken limbs. I know a
Wow,
few people that they've broken limbs. Yeah, but so there are a few of my dolls though that, at a certain point, the joints just get too loose. So I've kind of had to retire them from their photography
that's
career.
smart.
Yeah,
That's smart.
but other than that, no, knock on wood.
Good. I was just curious because, like I said, especially with some of us like who use like explosives and stuff
Yeah, you
like that,
guys burn
we've
things.
actually like melted our figures. I was just curious if there's ever like doll catastrophes where like something happened, the hair gets caught on something and gets like pulled out or something just really terrible. Oh no, the doll junkie is spelt wrong.
Is it?
It's
Oh.
T. It's te, not te. So if you're looking at this as you're reading it, just make sure it's not TEH. It's THE. The
And it
word
wouldn't have
the.
autocorrected it because it's all one word.
Exactly, and especially when you use an at handle. I'm happy you ended on a mermaid too because I was so fascinated by the whole mermaid thing.
Thank you. This was my first like attempt to like do any sort of photo layering. Because I don't know how to Photoshop. Like I have not tried that yet. So
Yeah.
I am excited to try to learn that. So this was like me like photo layering. Um, and I think it's okay. There's
Yes, it
there's
is.
improvement to be made, but
But you're learning how to do it. It came out
yes.
great, and I saw
Thank
you.
you.
Did you posted a video? I don't know if it was recently. Like I said, I went through so much of your feed, so this could have been like 8 years ago, and I wouldn't have realized. But there was a video you actually posted where you were showing like what you were doing, like coloring the back end, like bringing the layer out. Like I thought that was so cool to share with people, especially like people in the doll community who may not necessarily do this. seeing how you're doing it and how you're like your exercise and how you're planning on like, your development as a photoshopper and stuff. I think that's just so cool that I always love people who present behind the scenes because I'm terrible at doing it. And I just love when people show their process. Cause I think it's important. It's important to share our ideas and how we make things work. I
agree.
So
totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, and for me, it's always fun to look back at that kind of stuff and be like, oh, that's how I did it back in the day, like, so I'm sure in like a few years, I'll be like, whoa, we probably could have done that differently. But for now, it's good to just,
I do that with last week. Like I'll take a photo like a week ago and I'm just like, oh, I would have done that totally different.
Yeah.
6 days have passed. There's no way I would have done it like that. I got a question about here again, just because of my curiosity with dolls. I'm just so fascinated with is there like a holy grail right now of dolls? Like, is there something that you've been just like, it's going to be just impossible to get, but like you're thinking to yourself, oh gosh, if I could just get this one, like, I don't even know. I know Barbie. That's what I know, but I know there's more than that. I know there's like a whole like world out there. Like what is like a holy grail right now of dolls?
So my holy grail particularly is I collect integrity dolls and they're limited edition, usually no more than 1,000 or whatever. So my holy grail is called Public Adoration Eden. She was from a convention. She's got pink hair and her price on eBay is like through the roof. Like I'd have to mortgage a kidney or something, to get her. So
organ sales for dolls.
Right, exactly. She's my grail. But I mean, there's a lot. There's so many pretty dolls out there that I've missed. Like I feel like Barbie in the 2000s, they were at their peak, and that's kind of when I was out of my collecting a little bit.
So you missed out
there's
on
a bunch. Yeah, there's a bunch of the older Barbies that I look at, and I'm like, that would be really nice in my collection.
Yeah. Is it hard to get those, or is it kind of
at a decent price? I mean, like if you have a kidney to sell or a lot of money,
then you can get as many as you want. Yeah,
exactly. But
interesting. That's so interesting. Yeah, I really am enjoying like learning about this because Steff brought me into the Nendo world. I didn't know what that was until Steff introduced me to these gigantic headed toys. And now it's like, just learning new things. Like there's so much out there. There's so many, or even like Amy introducing me to like vintage toys. Like I didn't know what these like weird little sculptures were and stuff. It's just, I love it. I love seeing all the different things that people do. And yeah, the doll thing is just like, I'm at the beginning of my journey into understanding all of it, but it's really cool. And I thank you for opening my eyes and helping me to see some other stuff out there that I wouldn't have otherwise seen. So
yeah, thank you guys for introducing me to your accounts because I find what you guys do is so fascinating and so different. So it's nice to, like I said, see that art, in different takes of it, in different forms of toy.
It's awesome. Like I said, it's so fun. It's so fun that we all do different things and, that we, again, everybody just like respect everybody, like just have fun out there. Like that's the whole point of this. Just enjoy what you're doing. Like make friends, talk to people. Like it's this is why we do it. It's there's everybody has a different style, everybody's got a different interest. Some people like to do this thing, some people like these toys. That's the whole point. And have fun with that.
Exactly.
And it's funny because, like, even for myself, I have like an obsession with soft goods. That's why I started even buying Mezco toys and taking a Barbie doll out there, realizing what an actual soft good on a doll is going to do. It makes me want to buy some more of them and look at that kind of stuff and see what's going on. Not that I need another item to add to my repertoire for pre-orders. But I think it's interesting. It really is. And doing these things with Scott and learning about other people's collections and what they touch and then how they shoot kind of shows you a different way. It refreshes your brain on how to shoot some new things and learn from other people. And like I said, I enjoy all the people's collections and getting to see them and everything like that. So I really appreciate you coming on here, Staci. This is
thank you so much, guys. It's a lot of fun for sure. I can't wait to see more of what you guys do. I hope I see some dolls on your account, maybe.
I'm leaning towards it. I will say, like, I was doing a little looking on Big Bad Toy Store, and I did not realize that there are Star Wars Barbie lines. Like there's like some pretty legit ones out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. It's like,
my
it was
friend
so
Mariana,
cool.
Creation Odyssey, is very into dolls, and she's been
Mhm.
trying to convert me into the Nendo doll world for a very
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
time. So it might be part of those things that I look into. But I forgot how fun it is to be able to go back to your childhood on that regard and owning Barbies. And maybe there'll be Star Wars figures with Barbies on Scott's feed, and he can reminisce a little
There
bit.
might be. They might be
Hey,
interacting.
Scott, if not, I've got a few. I could lend them to you. I'll
See,
just send
and
them to you,
they'll
and you
just
can.
do their
Yeah,
thing. It'll be great.
right.
It'll be absolutely great. I'm genuinely like trying to think of how. I kept thinking, okay, so here, this is like kind of wild, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, but I kept thinking as I was taking the photos of the Star Wars figures, because again, they're not technically but they're the scale, they're the right scale,
Yeah.
and they have. I know that the doll community. I don't know if you get involved in this. I didn't really look deep into your hashtags, but I know there's a lot of like almost like, I don't know what you would call it, like events. Like they'll do like a wedding, and people will take photos with that hashtag and create it almost as if those people are at the wedding. And I genuinely thought about like, I should wedding crash with like Admiral Akbar or something, and he should dress up and go to like
Absolutely.
Kevin and Mary's wedding, and like I use the hashtag. People would think I was an absolute nut, but it would be
No, I
so
love it.
great to have like, just like, because I've got a handful, like I've got like a Luke and a Han. Like if Han and Luke just like showed up at the wedding, like you're scrolling through that wedding hashtag and you're like, wait, what is going on? Where did these people come from? It was just amazing. But
That
yeah,
would be awesome.
I love the doll community. I think it is so cool. And again, thank you for showing me so much more about it, and opening my brain up even more. It's great. So
Thank you guys so much. And like I said, I hope to see some more great photos on your accounts. And I'm so thankful to talk with you guys and share a little bit of my art.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna hit the big scary
Thank
button.
you.
Hold on.
Okay.
Well, y'all, thank you for listening to another wonderful episode of the combined SBN F-Stop Rebel podcast. Truly a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed everything. Remember, please do not grow up. It's a waste of time. I am Scott, F-Stop Rebel, and there's obviously Steff.
Yep, I'm still here, and you can find me at Slag My Thrilla or the SBN. You'll see all the credits on the end, but I always want to say, just guys, stay awesome and keep it up.